Would you rather be an expert at playing other people's music or an expert at making your own music? Hi, my name's Merritt. If you're certain your answer is the first option, this video will share some interesting ideas, but I think AI will actually help you. If you pick the second option, I'm going to share another way that you can cover songs, while also learning composition, training your ear to understand every detail in audio, as well as learning to mix your own songs and covers. Covering songs can be a lot of fun, but I think most people start doing covers with an end goal in mind. Whether that's getting followers for when you do actually release originals, monetizing your account, or networking with other musicians. The arguments against AI in music seem to revolve around three major points. Is it stealing from musicians? Is it reducing the fundamental skills of musicians? Or is it reducing the quality of music? I believe that if you're doing covers often, using AI, and your goals go beyond trying to cover other people's music, you're missing opportunities to build fundamental skills with each cover that you do. These are skills like listening to a song and understanding what every instrument and layer is doing, breaking down each instrument to understand what makes a composition so great, mixing the instruments together to sound good with original tracks, and help you translate your original audio to sound cohesive and competitive, and even writing your own interesting take on instruments to give a cover your unique flavor. In this video, I'll share with you 3 different ways to cover a song, how to do them, and the result of each with a short playthrough of Holy Roller by Spiritbox. Transition. When I started learning guitar covers decades ago, I could either learn from someone playing a video or learn a tab from it and find that online. Then I would record my own playing over the original audio, and for the sake of this video, I would call that an OG cover. At that time, I also wrote songs and wanted to release them, so I learned how to write virtual drums and virtual bass in order to put it all together into a full song. The mixes sounded terrible at first, but over time, feedback and referencing my favorite songs helped me get closer to what I actually wanted it to sound like. Mixing is all about trial and error. As you change one thing, you have to tweak like a billion different other things to eventually get what you want, but over time, as you build a template and really refine the sounds that you actually like, it gets really easy to translate a good mix onto each cover and change different unique little flavors to make it sound like you. Practice makes perfect, so mixing covers would get me where I wanted to go. I'm naturally a guitarist and a vocalist, so I had to listen to parts over and over again to understand what the drums were actually doing. If you focus on one piece each time you listen through, like one kick or one snare, it makes it easier to track the actual MIDI into your virtual drums. For the last couple of years, I've been killing 2 birds with one stone, covering songs that I love and understanding each part that makes them sound so good, and also learning how to put my own unique take on the mix to work on my mixing skills for when I actually release songs. With software like Moises AI, am I saying that right? It's getting easier and easier to cover a lot of songs and put volume ahead of learning. This is even more compelling when social media awards high volume and consistency. The only issue with this approach is if your end goal doesn't meet your strategy. There are very large accounts that are doing covers every day and getting a lot of interaction from an audience that likes those covers. If that is your end goal, then there's never been a better time to do that. That said, you could have tons of people who like your covers but don't associate with your end goals. If you're like me and your end goal is to release your own music, I'm going to challenge you to consider making your own covers, and I'll show you how to do it. Cover mythology! Alright, for the first method, which is going to be OG covers, first thing I'm going to do is actually go to the tab first, so I'll go to ultimateguitar.com. You can also go to Songster. I'll type in Holy Roller, pick the Spiritbox one, and here you can find the tempo. It's not always accurate, but it's something to go off of. Second, I'll open up a YouTube. I'll type in the song. And at this point, you can pretty much put it into a download. I'm not really clear on the terms of service, so I'm not going to guide you on how to do that exactly, but get it to a point where you can download this. So once you've got the tab and the download, you can open it up in your DAW. Here I've imported the track into my DAW. Now that we've got it all set up, we would just begin learning the song. Once that's all recorded, you could export that in the original track from your DAW, make sure it's not clipping, and then you would combine that with the video from the camera. You put those two together in a program like DaVinci Resolve, and then it's good to post. The second method has to do with using AI. I'll be using Moises AI for this. What it's going to do is it'll listen to the original audio, split it into stems, and then you can import those stems into your DAW to make your cover. This way you can exclude things like bass, guitar, drums, vocals, or whatever you want to make it so your cover is a little more cohesive to the instrument that you're playing. For example, if you want to exclude the guitars because you're playing the guitars. So here I've uploaded Holy Roller. As you can see, it's set it into 4 different tracks: vocals, drums, bass, and other. Unfortunately, it seems like it's lopping in the synths with the guitars in the other track. I think that's just like a free version thing. So I'm going to click export, and it seems you can't get the WAV on the free plan. So I'm going to go MP3, export all channels, have to extract them all. Okay, now that I've got those, I'm just going to separate them in my DAW. Now that I've got them separated, I'm just going to take a listen. Pretty similar altogether. So clearly the stems have some overlap. Of course, the AI is drawing from one file, so you can't take a clean high end of just the vocals without getting some of the guitars in it. But overall, it's pretty interesting. I'll be replacing the guitars, turning off the vocals, and just putting in my guitars into those stems, and the remainder of the steps would be exact to the original method. Alright, for the final method, what I'll have to do is learn what the drums are doing. I've heard people can export MIDI directly from a tab player, but I'm not going to jump way into that since I haven't done it before. I'm actually going to learn the drums by ear. You can also put in MIDI for a MIDI bass, but I'm going to record my bass just because I prefer the tone of that. And once I have the drums and bass, I'm just going to move forward with the rest of recording it instead of messing around with the synths, just because in this cover it's not going to be a central component. If you wanted to learn the synths yourself though, it would be really easy to figure out what they're doing. In order to do this method, you have to have some sort of virtual drums. What I'm using is a combination. I use it on Kontakt. I basically got the GGD Matt Halpern drums, and I'm just using the cymbals on that. And then further down, I'm using stems from Jacob Hansen Studio. I'm going to be using the tom, the kick, the snare, pretty much just the shells on that. I don't want to get too technical, but they're all routed to different tracks here so I can stem them. It's important to be able to mix these separately once you get to mixing them in with guitars and bass, just so you can start to influence your mix with things like sidechaining. So I'm going to make a MIDI track. Now that I've got my MIDI track set up, I'm going to show you how I write the MIDI drums as I'm listening to it. I always start with the kick, so here you can hear the beat. I'm going to open up the MIDI keyboard because it's easier for me to write on that. So here you can see these are kicks and this is the snare, and when I add hi-hat it'll be here. I'll start with the kick and then I'll fill in the snare and then all the different hi-hats and crashes. Something you'll notice when you're doing these is you can find ghost notes, so they're not quite the same velocity as the main snare notes. So what you'll actually want to do is tune the velocity down on those. I keep all my velocities the same until I change them at the end, so I'll just drop these about 40 or 50 velocity. Now that I've got the kick and the snare, I'm going to move into adding the hi-hats or the crashes. It's worth noting, once you get parts done, you can copy and paste and make it a lot more time efficient. So now I would change the velocities, and I also like to humanize them to add little imperfections. And that's pretty much how I do the drums for this. The bass part is actually going to be super easy if you've done the guitars, so you can either write it into a MIDI instrument or you can play it like I'm going to do. I only do this because I am a masochist, but specifically I really like the tones that I get from an actual bass. So I'll just show you me recording this. That may look easy, but it takes some time to get used to. It will absolutely unlock a lot of doors for you if you learn those things. The only thing that changes once you get to the next steps with the methods is now you would record your guitar and your video, but specifically with this one you want to mix your drums, guitars, and bass to sound the way that you want it to sound. Alright, now I'll take you through how I would mix and then export these. So for the first one, it's just going to be guitars and the original track. So I've got the original track here. I'm going to bring it up until it's not clipping and leave a little bit of room for the guitars. Then I'm going to go to my guitars and just check out what's going on. Now I'm going to balance the guitars with the original mix so it gets as loud as possible without clipping. That's about where I'd want it to be, so I'm going to export this, and this would be the original cover. Now I'll do the AI method, so I'll just balance the guitars into the stems and then exclude the original guitars. Alright, that's sitting about where I'd want it to be, so I'll export this one, and this will be for the second AI cover. Alright, lastly, I'll show you how I mixed it for the third method. There's a lot of things going on, but primarily, there's a virtual drum kit that's sending to the instrument bus, along with my bass chain, so this is going to be parallax and a couple of additional layers. And this is all from my bass DI. Then there's the guitar bus, which is just going to be a left and right, going through Neural DSP Omega Granifier, and then Ownhammer Studio Standard, and that's also going through a Bogren IRDX core thingy. Then it'll go through some plugins to make it sit a little bit better in the mix. All those instruments are going through a bus just to compress the snare a little bit, and that goes into another bus compressor which glues it together a little bit more. And last but not least, it'll all go through a mastering chain. The most important ones you would probably want to add are definitely a limiter to make sure it's loud enough and that it's not too loud. And I also like to add a clipper just to make it so the transients don't get lost.
Playthroughs.
Here are the results of each method. First I'll show you the OG method, then the AI method, and then the method that I actually mixed. For this playthrough, I'll be using a Balger Astra DC7, 28.5-inch scale, tuned to F sharp, equipped with a Lundgren M7 and an Evertune. I'll also be playing through a precision drive. So like, what do you think? What do you think about each method? Let me know if I missed anything or if you have any thoughts in the comments below. I'm really curious about this topic and your opinion, or if you learned anything interesting. Are you interested in learning how to mix your own covers but you don't know where to start? Well, lucky for you, there's a free trial going on in the Rock and Metal Creators Discord. In the Discord, there's different sections to submit mix feedback, video feedback, discuss different social media strategies, and collaborate with 100 other musicians who are doing the same thing as you. To top it off, if you make a post asking for help in any of those subjects, I'll be happy to take a listen and see if there's any notes I can help you with. Thanks for watching. Please leave me a like and subscribe if you like this type of video, and I'll know to make more. Bye-bye!